And she gave me this comb to hold. And I remember squeezing it and being like, embracing the pain is great, but you are stuck. You're stuck in this pain, and squeezing a comb's not going to do it. Like, you're here. You got to move forward. And then I remember as soon as I realized that, everything stopped. So my labor actually stalled for, I don't know time, but many hours, to the point where they were going to send me home.
Welcome to the Birth Education Center podcast, hosted by myself, Care Messer, an entrepreneur, birth educator, and doula. My team and I want to help you discover your options in birth and postpartum, how to find your voice, and how to use that voice to navigate our maternal healthcare system. You and your baby are not just a number. This information includes doulas too. Now let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. Today we have a birth story, and I've known Kaitlyn for a couple years now. She's a doula in our community and also a new mom. Her birth story, this is going to be different for you guys today. We're doing story time, and here's why. Kaitlyn is such a good writer, and when I sent her form to jot your notes down so that you kind of have a little thing to go with, I got a novel back, and it's so good, and the details are so crisp in my mind as I'm reading it that I want her to share that with you in that way. We're going to go back and forth between story time and conversation, but because there's several parts of it, and it's fantastic. So welcome, Kaitlyn. I'm glad you're here.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
If you're on Spotify or YouTube, you might see her puppy in the background, but no baby because Dad has the baby.
That has a baby.
We usually start off with talking about how you prepared for birth and what things you did and stuff like that. And in big caps, you put denial. And I know you took my classes, so I know you did that. I know you read all the books. I know what preparation you did because you're as type A as I am. So let's start with that, the denial part.
Yeah. So the denial piece was big, and it still is, right? Because all of these, issues or concepts or whatever that come up with birth, they don't just stop when you leave the delivery room, right? They're things that you got to keep working on. And so the denial is still big. And I have this small child, right? I'm doing the thing and I'm still in denial. But for me, my whole life, honestly, it's just been, I'm a big planner, right? So I like to prep and plan and be perfect at something before anyone can see it. And oftentimes that means that nobody sees it because I never actually do the thing, right? I never take the chance, And so I will read all the books and I'll listen to all the podcasts and I'll do all the research. And then I do nothing because I don't trust that I can do it or that I'm worthy enough to do it or capable or whatever it is. And so I never take that chance.
Even though you're one of the most capable people I know.
And so and people will say that, but you got to feel it. You really have to believe it. And as thankful as I am to have so much support around me and people who do believe in me, I've got to figure out that component of why I don't think that they're being honest.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that, I realize that, some people know this, what you bring in from your past life as from 0 to however you're old when you have a baby, you're bringing that into your birth, your labor, your postpartum, because you're transforming into a new human, yes, but your old stuff, if you haven't dealt with it, and if you don't know that you're supposed to deal with it, it comes along with a big old heavy suitcase. And then with all the new stuff, yeah, it's a burden that's unnecessary, but we don't know. I didn't know. And I think that's the part that I want the listeners to listen to today, because the parts of her birth story that she recorded, I couldn't have penned it better. So they're fantastic. Okay, let's start with your birth story.
All right. Here we go. And I have to do the caveat, this is a first draft. It's a not rereading it, so it's not perfect. But, that goes back to the perfection thing. Here we are. Draft number 1 for the world. Right. So there I was, enjoying the company of friends coming to celebrate little Bambino. The balloons were swaying gently in the breeze, the brisket fragrantly wafting through the house, conversations humming. The baby shower was going perfectly. Oh. What's that? There's a little bit tight in my abdomen. No bother. He's a month away. It's Braxton just showing up and saying hi. Oh, he's not going away. That pesky Braxton guy. He was not invited to this party. Maybe if I ignore him, he'll just go away. And that's what I did. I ignored those sensations and enjoyed myself. Then I cleaned up with my husband after everyone left, except my friend who was down from Seattle visiting. I've known her since pre-K. She's awesome. We had tea on the couch until around 11, and I retired to bed. Jesus, that damn Mr. Hicks. As soon as I laid down, he made it quite evident that he had not gotten the message to leave, and instead had been hiding somewhere during the remainder of the party, and was furious that I had the audacity to ignore his presence like that. And he made sure that now, at midnight, I had to pay attention to him. So I got up with a sigh and went to the bathroom, because no pregnant woman can simply get up out of bed without making a toilet stop first. Well, that's blood and mucus. Ew. Say what you will about the beauty of birth, but ew. I didn't say anything to my husband. Why bother his video gaming after he had been so supportive of people in his house, which he hates? I'm sure it's nothing. Bleeding can be totally normal, and he's still a month away. I turned on the shower, tuning into my breath to make it through these sensations. Folks said Braxton Hicks weren't so bad, and I disagree. I was not his friend, and I wanted him again to leave. Hopefully the shower would just flush him out. I'm sure it will. The shower always helps. Woo, Nelly, where's the wall? That felt a certain way. So much for the shower helping. A bath will do the trick. I'll just run a bath while I lean against the wall and try not to panic. Maybe I should tell my husband. Nah, it's fine. Baby's a month away, and these sensations are nothing compared to actual labor. It's practice. Just practice, babe. When my husband walks in as I'm crouched in a golem-like position, with bathwater rising to just over my ankles. In true South Texas man form, he just looks quietly at me. He knows better than to say or ask the wrong thing, so he thinks about it. This is different, isn't it? I deny, of course, and try to casually sit down, big balloon of a belly and all. He says nothing, just squats beside the tub and nods. He knows that'll make me talk, so I ramble about how it's fine and it's not labor and there's nothing to worry about. And as I talk, he secretly times, making note of the change in my voice, my cadence, the tension in my limbs. And then it happens. He looks over and sees the blood from earlier. Damn it, why didn't I flush? Is that from just now? He calmly asks, more inquisitive than accusatory. Okay, yes, but bleeding can be totally normal. The midwife even said so when we talked last week, and she said unless I have multiple signs that labor is progressing, I'm fine. Multiple signs like bloody show and contractions that force you into the shower and that are 5 minutes apart, like that, he retorts. Silence. Fine. The teenager in me sighs. Call the midwives, but they're just gonna tell me to stay home. Oh my goodness, so why don't you just come in and get checked out? We'll see you soon. The cheery voice on the other end replies to my story. Oh shit. Up I stood slowly, and no, I would not give my husband the satisfaction of bending my knees when that contraction hit as I stood. Nope. No sensations over here. So up I stood, and grumbling, I got dressed. We waved goodbye to my friend and told her we'd be back in a few hours. We were just going to make sure the baby was okay. She gave me a knowing glance and said, all right, see you later. And into the CRV we went. I had the wherewithal to know that sitting was not going to happen for the 30-minute ride, so I crouched in the back seat. Not sitting, not on all fours, more like I was hiding behind the passenger seat. Hiding from where we were going as if labor wouldn't find me if I was well hidden enough. But at this point, my prefrontal cortex was just so pissed at Braxton and in so much denial that I didn't realize that's what I was doing. The rest is a blur. I know that we parked in the parking garage and slowly walked to the entrance. I know that Alex, my husband, checked us in while I stood hunched over, gripping the edges of the waiting room chair with all the force I could muster, trying to squeeze the life out of Mr. Hicks. Seriously? Labor's worse than this? I am rethinking that epidural. I know the attendant persuaded me to get in the wheelchair. Do it. If you're at Jacobs, do it. That is a long walk. And that the lights were so bright. At some point, I must have put the hospital gown on, and I got onto the bed. I know this because the searing pain of a cervical check snapped me right back into reality. How did I not know those hurt? Why did I think it would feel like getting fingered by an inexperienced partner and not like the absolute assault on the cervix that it is? And I remember clearly the midwife's face, the angle of her body, her casual demeanor. Yep, you're about 3 centimeters and 90% effaced. The fuck, the who, I'm what? What does that mean? My dear sweet husband asks. What made your wife's in labor? Like labor? Yep, you're gonna have a baby today or tomorrow, but soon. But I only have a cell phone charger with me. Yep, that beautiful hospital bag that I was going to pack with my essential oils and my speaker and my eye mask and twinkle lights was still disassembled, its contents only together in my head. From there, my memories fragmented. Clear photos and second-long glimpses of the next 19 hours. We'll save those details for later.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So 19 hours. And is
Yeah.
that from the time you got to the hospital?
It's from the time we were in the bathtub. So,
Okay. So that's when you started counting.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so how did your doula get called in and stuff like that?
So once we realized that I was actually in labor and we only had a cell phone charger, my husband went into fix-it mode, which is fantastic. He is the best at just compartmentalizing and getting things done when that needs to happen. So he was like, okay, well, should we call the doula? And the midwife is just like, listen, buddy, your wife's in labor. You need to get whatever you need to get in order. So yes, if you have a doula, she needs to be here. And poor Shayna, when he called her, she was literally leaving another hospital from another birth. So she went from one birth to another without sleeping. And she doesn't drink caffeine, which is like, who are you?
I don't know how she functions. I really don't.
She's amazing. So I know he called Shayna, and she showed up while we were in triage. So we were in triage for quite a few hours. I know that because they didn't have any rooms. And that's another thing. Be ready to have your baby in triage because we were there for a long time. And it is a very small room with a very large bathroom that is very comfortable to labor in. So there you go. There's that. So I know she came in and she did bring the twinkle lights, which was great. And she got me out of the bed and onto all fours and on using birthing poles and into the bathroom because it was so loud and bright and beepy in the actual triage room. And when we were in the bathroom, like I felt safe. It felt like a cave, which I know we've talked about in the past because it was dark and just the little twinkle lights and it was kind of echoey, but I didn't have to hear all the hustling and bustling of everything else going on.
Had it landed for you yet that you were actually in labor, even though she had said it? Like all of a sudden it's okay, kick in your tools, like this is actually labor. Or were you kind of already in labor land to where that didn't really make sense?
I was not in labor land. I was very uncomfortable and I knew what was happening, but I was in my head in a bad way. So I was caught up on the pain and I couldn't get past it. And that was still very early in labor. And those sensations changed once my water broke and they got much more intense. But I was just so caught up because we weren't ready. Like in my head, I was like, we still have a month. I have a month to do my affirmations and to listen to my meditations and to get my breathing in order and to stick my hands in buckets of ice or whatever.
And I'm so glad that you actually took class really early, or you would have been in the middle of a class series.
Yeah. And no, I think when it like hit me that there was no going back was like I was on the bed, like death gripping the rails, right? No part of me was relaxed. My husband's like trying to touch my face, relax my eyebrows. And I'm like, go away from me. And so Shayna, and she gave me this comb to hold. And I remember squeezing it and being like, embracing the pain is great, but you are stuck. You're stuck in this pain and squeezing a comb's not going to do it. Like you're here. You're here. You got to move forward. And then I remember as soon as I realized that, everything stopped. So my labor actually stalled for, I don't know time, but many hours, to the point where they were going to send me home.
And did you need that relief? Do you feel like that was a reset for you?
Yeah, I think so. Like we had just gotten into the like actual birth room. So a room opened up and we were able to move into there. And yeah, I was walking around, I had a smoothie, like everything stopped. They're like, cool, we're getting your discharge paperwork together. Midwife came in, she was like, there's no reason to induce, you're early, like labor stalled, come back if it starts again. And it was as soon as she left the room, I had this huge contraction and I'm on all fours and something about it felt different. And I just felt this like gush of water. And there was a sweet little nurse in there. And I looked at her and I was like, fuck, I think my water just broke. And she's like, oh yeah. And I was like, God damn it. I just gotten in the headspace like, cool, we're staying. We're going to do this. And then we're like, okay, just kidding. We're going to go home. We're going to labor at home and actually get to like do the thing that you wanted to do because I didn't want to be in the hospital. And the birth center is a hospital, let's be honest. And so then we're like having to reframe it, be like, okay, well, now we're going to stay. And we had just sent Shayna home. She was like napping in her car. We had to call her back. But he wanted to be here. He was ready. And, you know, you've said it before, and I tell everyone it's not just mom. It's not just mom's call. That tiny little soul gets a say in when and how and where they come into the world. And sometimes it's not what you had in mind.
And they are a big soul that they literally govern their birth. And we don't give them the credit for that because he knows how to break you in ways that only he knows because you're going to be his parent.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've told people that birth or labor will break you and rebuild you. I've said all the things. I know the words. I've read the books. I've done the things. It breaks you. It brings you to this point. And it's not a low point, right? It's not like in life when you're, you know, in a low point. But it feels that way. In the moment, it feels so helpless and so overwhelming. And then it's up to you to work with your baby to start rebuilding in a way that is going to define you as the parent you want to be.
I feel like it dissolves your ego in order for you to start trusting on such a deep level that you're enough, that you can hear it, that you can manage it. Yeah. And then that's different for everybody, right? According to the work they've done ahead of time or what their filters are or who their support team is. If it's only a mental thing it needs to do, great. If it's a physical thing, if it's a combination, like that is the transformation that we hear about. No one wants to experience it. But when you come out the other side, you're like, oh, I so needed that. I hated every minute of it, but I so needed it.
Yeah. And I think the epiphany for me continues to happen, right? And we'll talk about it in a minute, but there were so many things that I learned during labor, or not even that I learned, but that I was exposed to, things that kind of reared their head that I had been ignoring for a long time. And then you have this baby. And for me, my brain cells left my body when my baby left my body. Like to this day, I can't talk, I can't write, I can't, like I don't know how to think. But especially those first few weeks, I didn't have the mental space to even begin to contemplate all of what birth showed me. And I had spoken with Shelley Rahim, who's another doula in the San Diego area who specializes in birth stories and all other things. She's incredible. And she was like, you need to write it down. Even if you can't process it now, just bullet points, write it down. And I'm so glad that I did, because the farther you get away from something, A, the less impactful it feels, regardless of what the something is. And B, the details start to dissolve. And having that tangible, and it took 5 minutes, which felt impossible at the time, but I'm so glad I did it, because now I got a list to work on with the therapist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there any things in that you want to share? Are they patterns? And if you don't want to share it, that's fine too. Because that's the next question. What do you think the theme of your baby's birth was? And that's where the realization started to happen. So yes, let's read the next section of our birth story.
The novel continues.
The novel continues.
So the theme of my labor and my baby's birth is that you cannot run indefinitely and you cannot pass the buck. There was a point in labor, transition maybe, I'm not sure, where I just couldn't. I was so lost and untethered and overwhelmed by the pain and relentlessness of all of it. And I was just trying to hide in the crevice between the bed and the bed rail. I couldn't make myself get out of it. I just wanted so desperately for that small, dark void to swallow me up and take me away. I wanted to dissolve into that nothingness. All I could say or moan through teary eyes was, I can't, just please let me get stop. I can't do this. Something in hindsight that I find myself saying or thinking anytime I'm in a position of physical pain. It's on the list for therapy. I saw my doula's face when I looked up, but I didn't recognize her. I had no idea who this woman was, and I was pissed that she was telling me to change my narrative, that I could do it, that I was already doing it. And I was really confused as to why a stranger was in my room. Eventually, it dawned on me that I knew her. I still couldn't place her. I couldn't recognize her. I was so disassociated from everything. And for those of you who don't know, I know Shayna outside of doula work. We are good friends. I know her face, and I could not place her. She eventually got me into the bathroom, and something shifted. I went into that room a human, and I left an animal, raw and driven and unstoppable. And Shayna made that transition possible, and I will forever be grateful for her. But I digress. I realized that I've run my whole life, from pain, from responsibility, from commitment, always having some authentic excuse that masks the real reason, that I don't think I can, that I'm not capable, that I'm not worthy. And you can't run from birth. I realized my whole life I've motivated myself with negativity. Run so you'll be better than those who don't eat the muffin, or you'll be fat and your guy will leave you. And that sort of negativity just sends you spiraling in birth. Plus, who would want that to be the message that a life is brought into this world with? I realized that I was clenching so hard because I was petrified of failing. My whole life, I've wanted to be a wife and a mom, and I have never seen anything through. And here I was on the precipice of something that everyone knew I was trying to do, that everyone knew I wanted, and something that I truly did not believe that I could do. Parent. I couldn't just quit or trade him in for another man when things got hard. I was about to have to do something and see it through, and that meant that I had to learn to trust myself. And boy, howdy, I was and am scared. If I could have let that fear go, I wouldn't have pushed for so long. I would have been able to enjoy bringing him into this world instead of it being essentially a very painful crash course in running from and ignoring your fear for decades. And it taught me that I have absolutely no control. We can plan and plan, which I do so much of, and still life will happen the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, the way it falls into line that we have no control over.
Yeah.
And I think this resonated with me so much because I'm getting emotional about it. I've spent my life and a lot of my friends, I mean, like attracts like, right? Not feeling safe in our skin and everything and living in survival. Got to be first, got to be the best, got to whatever. And it prevents you from living the authentic who you are because you're so afraid of the judgment and not being enough and whatever. And I was the same way with my birth, right? If I don't do this, the shame, the guilt, the whatever it was. And so as you were writing this and I was reading it, and then as you're saying it again, man, stuff that we just don't want to deal with. Birth will bring it up. Labor will bring it up. Postpartum will bring it up. It'll always be there in our parenting. And if we can just be brave enough to just look at it at some point, because otherwise it's our theme of our life and it will be there forever. And we always have the chance to like unlock it and loosen it up. And I think that's what labor and birth can do if we allow it. But the dismantling is, oof.
Yeah.
I feel the heaviness of it.
It's rough. And, I think it took me up until like last month. So my little 6 months old, so 90% of his life, like 5 months out of the 6 months of his life and with his birth, I was trying so hard to be perfect, right? In my head, I was like, I'm going to be so beautiful in my labor and it's going to be calm and peaceful. Did I do the work for that? No. But in my head, I was like, it's going to be calm and peaceful. There'll be the twinkle lights and I'm just going to breathe this baby out and we'll have this beautiful connection. I pushed for 2 hours and sounded like a hippo. Like it wasn't this like feminine, gentle thing. And that's what I needed. I needed to go through something that was the antithesis of what I thought would happen in order to grow. I'm not going to be in this.
And should we redefine feminism?
Right.
Because animal, mammal, raw is how we've protected our young from the beginning of time. This stupid Instagram bullshit has made us fairy dust and flowy dresses from Target with calico print on them. That's such a load of crap because we have always been revered, and I'm saying thousands of years ago, in our wildness and our rawness is how we have kept the tribes and the villages going.
Yeah.
We've lost that because we can make perfect pictures now, but they're false. They don't get us in touch with who we are to offer.
No, and I believed it all the way through postpartum. Like I thought we were going to be that mom and child in the meadow with that sundress and like the tall wheat or grass or whatever it is, just frolicking about, you know?
Real.
And dude, that is not what our experience has been.
You're like, I have a diaper on, I'm dripping blood, my boobs are leaking, my nipple just fell off.
Right? Yeah, it's like it was, and so it took me till literally like a month ago. I was trying to recreate that. I was trying to do this like gentle parenting and
tell our listeners about that because you've had 3 postpartum doulas that offered something different for you to figure it out. Yeah. I want you to read that part because the way you put it in that section of what advice would you give new parents is beautiful. And then I want to circle back to something, but yeah, what advice would you give to upcoming parents? Because this is classy.
Gosh, love yourself and each other through it all. Like I really wanted someone to have the answers for me. I read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts, planning, and I was just searching endlessly for someone to tell me how to do this so that I wouldn't have to take a chance on myself. If someone else told me what to do, it would be their fault if it didn't work. And if I had to do it, it meant that I would be trusting myself, and that was uncharted territory for me. For the first 5 months, I checked everything with Dr. Google and the all-knowing Reddit. I hired postpartum doulas, and my newborn specialist was a savior because she helped me learn how to trust myself. And I even consulted ChatGPT. What I learned is that no one knows. No one has any damn idea what they're doing or what you should do. If you co-sleep, you don't care about killing your baby, but if you put them in the bassinet, then you're heartless. Look, my baby hated being put down. He wasn't ready to be. And for the longest time, I tried to get him to be someone and to do something that wasn't right for him, sleeping alone. And now, at 6 months, after 6 months of co-sleeping, he's ready. And he sleeps on his own without fuss. And people say, like, oh, you'll learn his cries. Like, no, I haven't. I still have no damn idea if he is hungry or tired or teething or growing or just woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed. Do I pop my boob out every time? Yep. Does it always work? Nope. But can anyone else tell me what will? Also, no. And will he be okay if I don't get it right all the time? Absolutely. I would tell new parents not to buy anything new. I did. I get it. It's fun. And to borrow as many things as you can until you learn what your baby likes. Are they carrier babes, container babes, onesie babes, snuggle me babes? You don't know until they're here. So borrow and give both of yourselves grace while you figure it out. I think the biggest thing is to be honest with yourself. I'll admit this month that I realized I was basing my parenting decisions on this fabricated, romanticized idea of motherhood and family life. I so wanted our life to be frolicking in the meadows and sundresses with tall grass tickling our fingers and gentle parenting only, no tears, bed sharing, and all the other ooey gooey things out there. Not because that's what my son told me he wanted, and he doesn't, by the way, but because those images on Insta, that whole aesthetic feels morally superior. I wanted to be that perfect mom, the one that others were silently envious of. Ew, I know, but let's get vulnerable here. When I realized that that life is as much a lie as Disney's Happily Ever After, I could finally start listening to my son and myself and start playing with what actually works for us and not what I think we are supposed to do. So be flexible. Know that no one has the answers, sometimes not even you, and that's okay. Point the penis down, or you'll be covered in pee, and you'll be covered in spit up for the first year anyway, so just get used to being damp and be okay with it. Cherish the moments, but also sometimes the moments suck, so find a way to laugh through them. We joke that everything is beautiful and connected when things go awry, and that helps us enjoy or at least cope with the not so ideal parts. Get lots of help. People love helping. Form community, and just fucking try things. Just try all the things until you figure out what works and then try some more.
So good. It's so good. It's so good. Because you don't know until the baby's here. And we comparison is the devil. We're so disconnected with who the human is in front of us. And that's no different than our parents and grandparents saying, my kid's going to be an attorney. And they funnel us into that, or my kid's going to be a doctor or whatever. And we know if we don't do that, we will forever be disappointing them. And we do it with our postpartum.
Yeah.
Like we have to have the cute outfit and the cute bow on the head. And we have to go out looking like $1 million with our designer bag and our designer diaper bag and whatever it is that we have set up in our heads as the perfect way to do it so that people think we have our shit together when nobody in postpartum has their shit together. Nobody.
No one.
You're not meant to. It's
No.
meant to be messy. It's meant to kind of help you fuddle around and feel into your body and your intuition and what your baby needs. Oh my gosh, why don't we talk about that more?
Yeah. I mean, I think even with me, and I did not prepare for my own birth, but working with birth and being around birth, like I had quote unquote planned for it. I'd read all the books, whatever. For postpartum, really, all I knew was like, okay, you're going to be sore and get a sitz bath going. But the rest of it, both the physical part, like the leaking milk everywhere, all the time, everywhere, everything, you're just leaking. That's a phase that I'm glad is over. And the emotional and mental part of it, where it's not just that your heart's on your sleeve because you have this newborn. It's not just sleep deprivation, which takes a toll, but it's trusting yourself and it's showing up in an authentic way and with grace and forgiveness and patience. And man, it like, I have to give my husband so much praise. He has been the greatest partner through every phase of both pregnancy and birth and postpartum and parenting. And I do not think that my journey would have been as enjoyable as it was if I didn't have as supportive a partner. And so whether you have a romantic partner or it's your community around you, like having those people truly does make a difference. And I know that's, everybody says it, but it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, and you have to find community before you have the baby.
Yes.
Did you go to any of the breastfeeding support groups in town? Did you know where you were
Of
going
course
to head?
So of course
No one listens to me. So then they come back and complain. You never said it. I'm like, I totally said it. You blew it off because pregnancy and labor take over your whole mind and you think, I don't have time. I don't have the energy, but you won't have it in postpartum. You need to do it ahead of time, but no one listens. Well, there are a few, but it's very
And
rare.
I knew it was on the list, but I had a month,
Yeah.
No, so I didn't. And breastfeeding was its own journey for us. It was never hard. I know a lot of moms can't say that. It was not what we expected because he was so little. We did SNS. We had the syringe and the little tube and the nipple shield, and it was like a 4-person job for the first 2 weeks. But he was so motivated, and I love it now. It's like one of my favorite parts of the day. So I went to one postpartum that was in the hospital, and I think it's great that it exists. It was not the group for us. There was no community. It was mostly like a wait and feed kind of situation.
Just fix problems and make sure there aren't problems.
Right. And it was actually a dog sitter that reminded me that the Cafe of Life had breastfeeding support groups, and I looked it up and I was like, no, getting out of the house is
it's a lot.
A lot. I mean, I gave myself pep talks, and he hates containers, including his car seat. So putting him in the car seat is always like an ordeal.
He's gonna
So
cry
be
the
like
whole way there and the whole
the
way back, and you're
whole
like,
way there.
then it makes the mental game even worse to make yourself do it because you're like, he's gonna hate it. I don't want him to go through that, and that's
Yeah.
another excuse you'll use.
Yeah. And he loves it when we get there. He loves it. But the 20 minutes in, the 20 minutes back, whew, I have never been happier that earplugs exist because you can still hear him. I promise you'll still be able to hear your kiddo if you put them little fuzzy or foamy thingies
I
in your
need
ear.
them too. I had a colicky baby for 9 months who projectile vomited, and it was constant. 15
Yeah.
hours a day, she cried. Yep, get it.
And it just takes it down. It just takes it to a level where your nervous system can handle it. But yeah, getting him in the car was an ordeal. But once I found that group, I knew. And I think it might happen like that for other people where you walk in and you're just like, okay, this is the energy I want. This is it. And I've been going religiously ever since because it's not just to problem solve. It is to commiserate and to lift each other up and to talk about things that aren't breastfeeding related. Like, how are you guys handling the no sleep? And yeah, and the moms who are here that are pregnant, I'm like, thank God you found us. Like, way to do what Kara said to do.
You said you found us.
Yeah.
That's the kicker right there. I'm in community. I'm where I should be. I'm taking, I'm giving. That's perfect.
Yeah. Community is where it's at. So don't underestimate how important investing in that really is.
Absolutely. And I think Alex has some military skills that probably came in really handy with supporting you guys because the guy can troubleshoot
Oh, yeah.
and he can hold space because he has to with what he does. And yeah, he's powerful in that way. So definitely that was a good match.
Oh, yeah. And he and Shayna, throughout my birth, I think if you take nothing away from birth courses is to learn how to advocate for yourself, but also whoever you are bringing into that birth space needs to know what you want advocated so that when you are in labor land, you're not having to come out of it to talk nicely to these doctors or nurses. And you have people that you trust explicitly with your birth and your labor. Because there were definitely times like when I was trying to hide, I was just like, I can't do this. I need pain meds. And of course, it is the doctor's job to listen to their patient, and I'm their patient. Or in that moment, I was their patient. So they're like, hey, she said she wants this. We have to go talk to the anesthesiologist. I cannot ignore what she said, which is true. And having a game plan with them where it's like, I need to say it 3 times within the hour. Like, I need you guys to remind me to bring me back down to earth. And I'm over here. And they're like, Kaitlyn, you don't want the epidural? And the nurse was like, okay, well, what about pain meds? Do you want IV pain meds? And I was like, yes, give me the pain meds. My husband was like, we are not giving our child fentanyl, Kaitlyn. And I was like, you're right. We're not giving our child fentanyl.
Right? Because we don't remember. We don't remember everything that we've learned and researched without those people to go take me back to grounding. Okay, you're right. That's the one thing I didn't want. If I want an epidural, that's different, but I do not want fentanyl going straight to my baby. Right?
And so having them
Wow. And
be
it's,
there.
I mean, all power to the 2 people that are supporting you when you're hiding on a bed rail saying, I want, I need, and they're saying, remember? Ooh, because it's such a tricky thing to be the support person in that moment.
Yeah.
And
I got up, Shayna, I will sing her praises. She doulaed the ever living daylights out of me because I'm over there like hiding. And I was like, I want the epidural. I'm getting the epidural. Fuck you guys. I'm not doing this anymore. And she was like, okay, fine. If you want the epidural, you can get the epidural, but you're not going to get out of bed afterwards. So why don't we go to the bathroom? We're just going to go to the bathroom real quick before the epidural gets here. And me, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's logical. And hindsight, me, it's just like, damn it, she's good. Like, she got me out of that physical space because I needed to just get out of the bed. I needed to just remove myself from this tiny little crevice that I was trying to find my way into.
yeah, new
And she figured out
doulas,
how
take
to.
note of that. Take note of that.
Brilliant. That was a brilliant move. And yeah, I credit so much of, our labor and birth, both with Benji and myself, but with Shayna and Alex. Like, they were there. And postpartum, like, doulas are there for your birth. They typically will come and check on you afterwards. But having somebody with you in your hospital or birth center following your birth is so important. And I didn't realize that. Benji was a month early. Thankfully, he didn't have a lot of complications. He was a little jaundiced. He had a really hard time sucking breast milk, which is why we did the SNS system with him. But I was apparently great. They were like, you're discharged, you're good to go, have fun. They're like, but we're going to keep your kiddo in NICU. And Alex knew that I wasn't going to leave that hospital if my kid was there. And so, bless his heart, he was just like, okay, why does he need to go to NICU? And they're like, he's jaundiced, we're worried about his weight. And he was like, so can we just keep feeding him and bring a blue light home? And they're like, yeah, but we really want to. It's like, does he need any life-saving equipment that the NICU offers? And they're like, no. He's so good. And they're like, no, we really want to keep him though and monitor him. And he was like, listen, you're a doctor and I know you are a pediatrician. He's like, but you took an oath to whatever the Hippocratic Oath says, and he was very eloquent about it. And he was like, my wife is not going to leave my baby's side. And she just gave birth and she is recovering from tears. She can barely walk. And you're going to have her sleep on a recliner instead of doing what she needs to do for her body, all because you want him here, but he doesn't need life-saving support. Do you think that's a good idea? And the doctor's like, well, no, she needs to go home. She's not going to go home. She's going to sleep right next to him. And he advocated so hard and like amicably, like there wasn't any tension. He was just very matter of fact. He was like, we are a team. You're here to support the team. That's how I'm going to support the team. And so they did. They worked with us and we ended up being able to stay in the postpartum room for 5 days with him, which could happen because the way that the births came in, they didn't need the room necessarily. But man, if he hadn't have been there, like I don't know that I could have found the strength to have those conversations because I was so depleted mentally and emotionally and physically. And the thought of leaving my baby just sent me spiraling. So having that support postpartum, like huge.
I remember him talking to me after, I don't know if it was when I was dropping pills off or picking the placenta up or whatever. And he said, the advocacy is so real. Like I learned it in class. I understand it from my job. Holy cow. Every time you turn around, I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and that was with midwives in a birth center. I'm like, yep. Like, and how do I prepare? I can prepare you as much as I can prepare you for, but you have to go in ready. And he also mentioned working as a team. He's like, I had to remind everybody that we're on the same team here. We want the best for everybody. I'm like, yeah, you did. And I'm so glad. So that's the first time I've heard how he used that. That's awesome.
And his whole thing is, right, like, how do we get to yes? So even like in marital disputes, how do we get to yes? Because it's not about winning or losing. It's like, how do we move forward in the best way possible? And that's just how his mind works, and his mind is beautiful. But yeah, having that advocacy piece, because in birth, you don't want to be in your prefrontal cortex. And then postpartum, your prefrontal cortex is gone. It's not there. And so you need people to help you have the best experience that you possibly can.
Absolutely. And I wanted to circle back a little to baby coming out. So he's born. Because he's small, do they put him on your chest? Do they do that? Were you able to come back into your body?
It was so strange. So I pushed for 2 hours, which was a long time, probably on account of I was pushing and clinching at the same time, which turns out doesn't work effectively.
Right. Not effectively. But it's whatever you have to do to get through it.
Yeah.
Because if your mind is holding on, your body's going to hold on. So yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And I knew at a certain point towards the end of pushing, like the energy in the room shifted, like something was wrong. And to this day, I don't know what that is because Alex also doesn't know what it is. And I just never asked, but they were concerned about baby because he was like stuck. We couldn't get him out. His heart rate was dropping, and they did a great job of not telling me because they were just like, listen, she's in labor land. And Shayna, right, having a doula, she was like, you need to get your leg up. I know you want to be on all fours, but you have to get in a lunge. Like, you have to change positions. And I was like, I can't. And so she picked my leg up for me and scooted it off the bed. And that's what helped bring him down, right? So having that knowledge, because the doctors and nurses weren't helping. Yeah, they were just like, oh, there's a problem. Cool. And so once he started actually like moving again, I felt it, and it, call it what you want, sensation, pain, intense, whatever it is, it truly feels, or it felt to me like you were trying to squeeze something hard through something hard, right? So if you've ever tried to jam a piece of ice into a bottle or a cup that's too small for the ice to fit, and you're just kind of pushing it, that's how it felt. Yeah.
Right? And he luckily had a littler body because he came
Oh my God. I am so glad he was early. I was like, you knew what I could handle, and what I could handle was not a full-term baby, because he was 6 pounds 15 ounces when he was born, which is pretty darn big for a little tiny preemie.
And that's, yeah, I was gonna say, and that's not, I mean, that could be full term for him. And we thought a month, we still have a month. And baby's like,
Yeah.
nah, I'm right on time.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but when I labored on all fours, except for the one time my knee was up, for the whole time I was at the hospital, I was never not on my hands and knees. And you can feel like I felt when my water broke. I felt when his head came through, because that pressure relieved for a second, right? Because you go down to the neck, and then pressure came back. She got some shoulders that you got to get through there. And if you've ever seen a baby coming out of a woman's vagina where it like gloopily twists, you got a lot of sloshing going on and a little kind of thing, that's exactly how it felt. You have this really massive pressure, and then and then you're done. And I was shaking. I know I was shaking like uncontrollably. And it was hard for me to imagine that it was over. And they handed me the baby like under my legs, and then I couldn't figure out how to get into a different position, so they had to help me. But the whole world just left in that moment. Like, I heard the hustling and bustling, but it was almost like I was underwater, and it was just me and this tiny thing. And I just remember crying and laughing like uncontrollably, because there were so many emotions. And
The biggest dump of oxytocin you'll ever have in your lifetime, which makes it almost psychedelic. Like you are out.
It was. And I could not tell you how long we stayed in that place or in that moment. I know that they were like stitching me the whole time, because no matter how elated you are, you can definitely feel that lidocaine needle, which is great. We love lidocaine in that situation. But yeah, I mean, it was so magical. And you've mentioned like the newborn smell, and that smell was so strong. And it was the greatest thing in the world. And you're looking at pictures and you're like, how does this bloody cottage cheese looking thing smell good? But it does. He smelled so good. Yeah. And he's always been a super chill baby. Like, he was ready to come out. He's ready to party. He lets me know when he's hungry. He doesn't fuss when he has a dirty diaper. He fusses at no other time than when he's hungry. And he came out that way. Like, he cried for a minute, because that's shocking. That's a shift. And then it was just chill. And he just, like, he would try to root and nurse. And I truly believe that he came out with that personality. And he's just always been ready for what's next. And, he's 6 months old. He's crawling. He's, like, pouring himself up. He's ready to go. He doesn't want to cuddle. That's fine. I want to cuddle. But I think they come out with their little personalities and that connection. I didn't realize that they don't really open their eyes so much for a couple days. So that was something new. We were like, are you in there? Yeah. Yeah. Because they do that. They kind of look stoned the whole time. They're like squinty and like, but it was, and he was so small. And, I remember like, and they're quite floppy, right? They don't have a lot of muscle tone. And that was always a little unnerving. You're like, is your neck broken? Because, in this contorted
Just
position.
a heavy head to figure out, because you haven't had to lift it in the womb. You're in a curl position, right?
Yeah.
And gravity. He was in water. Too. Now he's not.
Yeah. And that's got to feel weird.
And heavy. Yeah, I can't even imagine being in 9 months, you're in this unweighted, suspended, even though it's a tight fit, you're suspended in water. And then you have full force gravity. All of a sudden, it's cold, it's bright. That's such a lot of sensation for a baby to intake. And then all of our messed up stuff, like these poor kids. Like, I'm surprised we even make it through.
It's amazing.
Race. Yeah, human race. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's amazing to me how much, because after hearing all the different parts of your story, and what you went through mentally and emotionally, and then revisiting it in postpartum. Shelley, great advice. Write it down as soon as you can. Everybody should do that as soon as you come out. If you have a mother-in-law or a mom who really wants a job, say, here, jot these down, give her the job of just writing down, I remember this, I remember that, I remember that. And have your doula throw in, little points too. Oh, she made fun of this and she laughed at this and she bled over here, whatever it is that will make up the storyline later. Those bits of going back and remembering. And also, I love how you've compared it to, I've always run from things in my life. I've always hidden because I'm afraid I'll fail. Like, those are big themes that are now like out there. And you can look at them, you can sort through them when they come up, you can recognize it and go, my future self doesn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And this little guy comes to say, I trust the world, let me at it. And he showed you the whole time. You could trust labor, you could trust birth, you could trust it being a month and a half. But that's so overwhelming at the time. Do you feel like going back and now going, oh, and once I let go, we've had a really good month. 5 months, I still was holding tight. And now that I've let go, like, this little kid will just keep teaching me this if I just watch his personality and watch how he moves through the world.
Yeah. And I think it's an ebb and flow, right? I think part of it is that he is 6 months, so he is a little bit more independent. Not that he's not fully reliant on us, but we can set him down to play for like 2 minutes while we do the dishes. He is sleeping on his own, which means that we now have time together. Alex and I were doing shifts where I would go to bed with Benji at 7 because he would only sleep in a cross cradle position, and we would stay up. I would stay up till 2 or 3. I would call Alex. He would come and take over. I would sleep from 3 to 6, and that's how we made it through. And that's exhausting. And I wasn't really like able to enjoy things as much because I was so sleep deprived. But I also think part of it is that I just stopped caring about other people and about other people's opinions, because no matter what I do, it's going to go against some parenting notion that is all the rage right now. And the reality is we have been raising kids for a long time. And I can promise you, back in the day, they weren't timing naps or wake windows. They weren't trying to get their kids to crawl early. They weren't focused on measuring all of these things that we are now obsessed with measuring. And they weren't probably parenting in order to impress other people. They were just parenting. And so I think we live in this age where like it's beautiful that we know as much as we know, but it's like we know too much. And you're never going to be able to be the perfect parent. You are going to do something that causes that kid to go to therapy later, no matter how much you love them.
100%. Save your money. Yes. You should have a therapy fund. Yes.
Yeah. And that to me took so much pressure off, just being like, I'm never going to be perfect. And if I don't do things, and it was actually my newborn care specialist who was just like, if it's not working for you, you are a part of the team. Then it's not working for the team. And right, if you are doing things that mean you can't show up for your kid, then it's not working, right? So like get the sleep or take the help or whatever. People are like, you have to stay inside for the first 40 days and like slow down. And I should have slowed down a little more than I did, but I needed to go outside. I needed to go for those walks, and I didn't need to have the guilt that went with them. And I didn't need to have the hubris that went with them where I'm like, I am locking my baby in a pram at 2 weeks postpartum. And so if I just let it go and gone for whatever walk I felt was appropriate and enjoyed being with my kid and my dog and not caring about anything else, that walk would have been so much more impactful to my mental health than it was. And so, yeah, just let go. Who cares what somebody thinks on Instagram? Like, turn the comments off. I'm not going to tell you not to go on it because that's not possible, probably. Not for me. But use it as inspiration. Like, if I still listen to podcasts and books on parenting, not because I'm looking for the answers, but because I know in almost everything I hear, there will be a nugget that sticks so that I form my own style of parenting based on all of this information from this huge community that is planet Earth.
And you're going to parent every kid differently because they're all different. It's not a one size fits all.
No.
It's not. And you'll have one that just takes to rules and loves them. And the other one's like, I do my own thing always.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Then how do we make it work for the team? Because that is who you are. While the rule follower is upset by that, but we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we just don't, we're so rigid now in our thinking and in our, the way it has to be in the way we portray and all of that. And what matters most is, are you supporting this child the way they need to be supported so that we don't break them?
Yeah. And that was, I mean, Alex and I talked, it's probably a few weeks ago now when we were putting the crib together, and he's great at checking in. He was like, I just want to check in. Because before we had Benji, you had some like hard lines. And one of them was you were going to co-sleep with your kid in your room until they were at least a year because of the risk of SIDS. You wanted to bed share. That was a hard line. You were only going to bed share. He was like, and now we're doing all of these things that go against your hard lines. And I was like, yeah, because I realized you can't have a hard line in parenting before you have the kid. And I mean, okay, yeah, you would have like some hard lines, like maybe like don't shoot up heroin, but like you can't have
hard lines.
Yeah, you can't, because you won't know what that kid is going to need. And I think I was clinging to this idea of parenthood and martyrdom being tied together because I saw that growing up. And that was a sign of a good parent. Like, how much have you sacrificed for your kid? And I was listening to a book, and it was on French parenting, and I didn't agree with 80% of what this book had to say. But one of the things that she said was, in America, we prioritize the kid so much that the parents lose sight of themselves. They don't have their hobbies. They don't have them time. They're afraid of hurting their kids' feelings by telling them, no, you need to go to bed at 7 because mom and dad need time together. And the kid is that parent's whole life. And it's too much pressure. And I was like, dude, I've been in a relationship where I am the other person's whole world. I am their source of happiness. I am their hobby. They don't do anything without me. And it was so much pressure, and I hated it, and it crushed me, and I left, and I don't talk to that person anymore. And I never want that to be my kid. I don't want to put that much pressure on them. And so it just made me realize, how this other thing, because I was going to martyr the hell out of parenting, and then realizing you don't need to martyr anything. That's silly. I don't want my kid to have that much anxiety over my happiness. Like, I still feel responsible for my parents' happiness. And I'm an adult. And I'm like, I'm not going to give him that burden. So yeah, there's so much that you learn along the way. And you can always change course.
Stop, Kaitlyn. That's the thing. I love that you're getting all these little nuggets, and just watch them come in, because when you get into a stuck point, the teacher will show up, the podcast will show up, the example will show up, either of what you don't want. Ooh, where am I right? Ooh, I don't want to do that. Or what? Oh, that offers a new opportunity. Like, look at that. Like, we are never supposed to know all the answers, and we are supposed to walk with grace with ourselves and realize, I mean, even though that we're adults, we're still little kids. I still look for an adult to make the decisions, and I'm the adult.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that's supposed to change. Like, when I was a kid and I looked at the adult, I thought, wow, they know everything. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, what a farce. No, they didn't. And I was taking all their advice. What a joke. Like, they were making it up just like I am. So the sooner we learn that, and the more we can just be like, have some trusted friends that we can go, I'm at my wit's end. What do I do? Or can you just take my kid for a week? Because I can't. There's so many things that we can do back and forth to support each other that we block ourselves off because we're afraid to show vulnerability.
Yeah. And man, like, having the support group has been phenomenal. And, I have a dear friend that lives in Florida now, and we send each other voice memos or videos like every day. We're just like, dude, last night sucked. Homie was up every hour, or I'm having this issue. And we're not looking for an answer. Sometimes we're like, hey, have you dealt with this? But oftentimes it's just, I need to tell someone who's not going to judge me or my partner or my baby or my family or whatever. And it's just in my corner all the time. And she's phenomenal. And yeah, like, having that support, having that person that you can commiserate with and share the victories with, it's so important.
Yeah, she and I are sharing voice memos now too, because she's doing some work for me. So I get that. She's a great voicemail or a voice memo person to have in her corner. She's fantastic. Before we finish up, I would love for you to read what you said about postpartum. It's just a little bit, but just the food aspect I thought was so good, because either some people don't prepare for it at all, or they could prepare better. always.
Yes.
So yeah, read your little bit on postpartum.
Yeah. So, what I wish I prepared more for when it came to my postpartum, non-dairy food. I meal prepped about 3 months worth of food in my second trimester, and I couldn't eat any of it because the baby does not like dairy.
And you don't know till you know.
But the thing is, Kara, I knew. I love cheese so much, and I had meal prepped for Becca when she and Kyle were pregnant, about to give birth, and I made her quesadillas and breakfast sandwiches and breakfast tacos and stews and soups and all the things. And a lot of them had cream and dairy because like all of that rich fat is so good for like breastfeeding and getting your energy back. And she couldn't eat it. She did for a couple of weeks, and then they found out that, it's not worth their kiddo being up all night with gas and being uncomfortable. And I was like, that won't be me. And I didn't listen to I saw what happened, and I was like, no. So there's the denial.
Wow.
And yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And then protein lactation balls are lifesavers. Make as many as you can. It's just oats, peanut butter, agave or honey, not wheat germ. What's the word that I'm looking? River yeast, and something else. But they're on Google. You can find it. Throw like raisins or cranberries or white chocolate chips in them, whatever.
Make sure you give me that so I can link it in there, because that'll be easier for people not have to think about it to find it.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, because when you are breastfeeding and or are the partner of someone breastfeeding and you are tired and you are in the trenches, stews and soups are great, except for the fact that you have to heat them, you have to put them into a bowl, and then you have to have two hands to consume them. And 9 times out of 10, one hand has a baby, and when they're little, both hands have the baby because you're afraid their head's going to fall off. And so having single-handed food like quesadillas, if you are trying the cheese game, or these little protein balls that have just they're great energy, right? It's fat and protein and carbs, and it's in a little bowl. Make more than you think you're going to need. And if you have a mixer, use the mixer. I have been mixing these by hand since before we had Benji, and I was like getting a bicep workout, and then my mother-in-law came and she pulled out my mixer, and that was the smartest thing I've ever seen.
You can triple, quadruple the recipe. Half of them. Yeah. Definitely the mixer works really well.
So, and then get a deep freeze if you have the option. Deep freezes are great. They're great for breast milk storage. They're great for meal prep because most people's freezer on their fridge is quite small. If you are accepting food from other people, like meal train stuff, have them put it in pre-portioned sizes. Nobody needs a huge casserole that you have to thaw out all at one time. No one can eat that. And they do sell little tiny, 2-serving portion things. So those are great. Same with soups or whatever. Get a Costco membership or a Sam's membership. Protein bars are great. Again, single food things. And just, you're going to be going through so much food. I thought I was hungry and thirsty during pregnancy. No, I don't know what hunger was during pregnancy. I can now eat 18 servings of something and still be hungry. So
yeah, the postpartum. Yeah.
It's real.
Breastfeeding can take on a whole other munchies.
Yeah. That would be my advice. And just know that you're going to probably smell like milk for a long time. Hey, buddy. There you go. What's that? So yeah, the little milk pads, what do you call it? They're not called milk pads, but you put them in your bra to absorb the milk. Game changing. Yeah. And I think the other thing that I wish I had known was that even though things do bounce back, we've talked about how, you good? Okay. We've talked about how penile and vaginal tissue expand and shrink when necessary. Your organs have been shifting for 9 months, and they don't go back just because your little belly went back. And I've worked out my whole life. I love movement. Movement was really hard. I had a lot of pelvic floor heaviness. He sat really low during pregnancy. And so getting into pelvic floor PT as soon as you feel ready, because things shift and things change. And, bless my husband's heart, he's way too goddamn honest. We had sex once postpartum, and I couldn't find him. He was inside of me and I could not find him. And it also felt like I was just getting paper cut on a slip and slide the whole time. It was awful.
Yeah, things definitely shift and realignment and, getting those nerve endings woken up again. And yeah, there's a
It's a
lot that
process.
happens down there.
And just be able to like be vulnerable and talk to your partner and talk to yourself, because it doesn't, just because things like bounce back doesn't mean it's going back to what it once was. It's going back to a place where you can start to get to know yourself again.
And I've also had some women say it's better than it was before. Like it shifted things out of what it was in a funk. And now it's like, and everything's lined up now. So you never know, but PT while you're pregnant or before you're pregnant to see where your pelvic floor is at and where you have sensation, where you don't, where it's tight, where it's loose, if it's, a nice little healthy trampoline. And then also in pregnancy, because they can even help you know what side to push on. Yeah, PT for your pelvic floor is essential. Figure that out. Hello, Benji. You're so sweet. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for being here today. There's so many takeaways. I don't even know where to start with this. It's going to make the show notes really hard to write for what is in here. And I appreciate you being vulnerable and offering your beautiful writing to our listeners today.
Of course.
So,
Thank you for having me.
thank you so much. All right. We'll see everybody next week.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember, it's your body, your choice, and finding your voice is your power. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all the places, and go to birtheducationcenter.com for our blog and more online education classes. And we'll see you next week.